Before I start, though, I wanted to cover Mr. Charles Stanley. He passed away this week at the age of 90, which that's a long life. But he's a very prolific pastor. He was a pastor in Atlanta, so I had heard of him a lot more when I moved out there. But he's been pastoring for several years. And as I was hearing the tributes go out over his long time of ministering, one of the things that I heard was about his ministry. His ministry didn't start in Atlanta, it started in Florida. And he had a very successful church. It was thriving. And so God told him to move to Atlanta. And he was like, I don't know anyone in Atlanta. Why am I moving to Atlanta? And so he was talking to his family, and his son, who had to be about 8 or 9 years old, basically said this: if God told you to do it, why aren't you doing it? And you know, it made him kind of think about, yeah, he doesn't have, my son doesn't have all of the things that are going on in my mind. I have to move, I got to get upright, we got to find a place to go. Maybe we might have a church that's interested in me pastoring it, but all the ups and downs on that. But his son said, well, isn't that what you teach us? If God says something, shouldn't we do it? And that, he said, he had to hear in order for him to move to Atlanta. And from there, his ministry took off even further than where it went before. So I like the quote. I saw this quote everywhere: obey God and leave all the consequences to him. Because that's what I'm going to be talking about today with Moses. I told you that we are going to be talking about Moses getting to Egypt. But I did not tell you what is about to happen. This is a part of the story that I completely forget about every single time everybody talks about the burning bush. They talk about the burning bush, and then instantly he's standing in front of Pharaoh saying, let my people go, right? But there is a section of the Bible that talks about something else. So just to recap, Moses sees a burning bush. The bush is burning, but it's not burning up. And so God speaks to him and says, I want you to go to Israel and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. God gives him a mission. So what happens? Moses makes excuses. I gave you the 5 excuses that Moses said, you got the wrong guy. I can't do it. And then God tells him again, I said go. So Moses decides to go. And so that's where we start our message today. It's going to be in Exodus 4. And I'm going to start at the 18th verse. I'm going to read it for you. I have the scriptures up here too. It says this: Then Moses went back to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, let me return to my own people in Egypt to see if any of them are still alive. Jethro said, go, and I wish you well. Now, the Lord had said to Moses in Midian, go back to Egypt, for all those who wanted to kill you are dead. So Moses took his wife and son and started back to Egypt. And he also took God in his hand. And remember, that staff of God was the one that turned into a snake and did all those wonders. So he took that with him. So far, everything seems like it's exactly how it should be, right? But there's more. The Lord said to Moses, when you return to Egypt, See that you perform before Pharaoh all the wonders I have given you the power to do. But I will harden his heart so that he will not let the people go. Then say to Pharaoh, this is what the Lord says. Israel is my firstborn, and I told you, let my son go so that he may worship me. But you refuse to let him go, so I will kill your firstborn son. Now, I am sure Moses is like, wait, hold, time out. You told me to go to Egypt and tell the Pharaoh to let my people go, and then you just said, I'm going to harden his heart? What am I doing here? What is going on? And what's this about people being killed? Because he didn't mention anything about killing people at the burning bush. All right, let's talk about that. Heart in the hard place. He said, I will harden his heart. Now, what does that even mean? Harden your heart. The heart helps determine your values. The heart is basically what gives you the power to make the decisions in your life. You always keep hearing people, is this a head decision or a heart decision? When I was recently in interviews, there was a couple of people that were interviewing for it, and I had a person that with my heart, I wish I could give that job to. But my head said, no, this person over here is better. And so I had to go with the head decision because it made more sense. Proverbs 4:23 says, keep your heart with all diligence, because out of it flows the springs of life. Your heart is what gives you power in order for you to believe. You didn't make a head decision when it came to coming to Christ. You made a heart decision when it came to coming to Christ. It was your heart that got pulled in by God. The heart has to be kept right, or it leads us the wrong direction. Now, since I do have young people in here, I am going to tell you that the people that are older than you, they're not old, they're just older than you, in this room are going to tell you. Sometimes your heart is going to tell you that this is the right boy for you. But don't listen to your heart all the time.
I know.
Because sometimes it leads you the wrong direction. If there was boys in here, I'd say the same thing. We have to guard our heart. In fact, there's another scripture that says that you need to guard your heart and your mind.
Another big one.
So that is one of the things that we have to keep encouraged about. That we have to make sure that we really watch our heart. Now, here's the interesting thing about it. Why did God tell Moses that his request won't work? Why would God even tell him that? Why would God send him on this mission? Tell him, hey, I want you to do all this stuff. And then as he got everybody on the donkey, as he's walking out, he's like, oh, by the way, the Pharaoh's not going to listen to you. Why would he do that? He does that so that Moses' heart doesn't lead him to the wrong place. Moses gave every excuse in the book as to why he can't do what God asked him to do. Finally, he understood that God meant what he was saying, and he decided to go ahead and do this. But when we run into things, when we face rejection, we have to understand that even that rejection is part of God's plan. Well, it didn't work out. Amy, I went and applied for a job, and I didn't get it. And God said I was going to get that job. What happened? That's part of God's plan. And Every single time we've ran into a brick wall, it's all part of God's plan. One of the things that we as Christians don't understand is that God is not a genie. We don't get to rub his belly and a magic wish happens. It doesn't work that way. God sees further down the road than we could ever imagine. And sometimes God is like, yes, I said you're going to get a job. Yes, I said you're going to work at this place, but not that position. Maybe it's another position. Maybe you impress somebody so much in your interview, they're like, well, we're not hiring him, but I think you guys should hire him. We don't know how God is going to move, but we just have to have that faith to obey God and let him deal with the consequences. Sometimes our rejection is the first step towards freedom. God is telling Moses, I'm going to use you to free our people. And he's also telling Moses, the guy that's responsible for freeing our people is going to tell you no. That seems like two counter things. But it's God's way. It might be in a hard place to deal with rejection and deal with the things that we don't get that works out in our lives, but that's the way God works. He doesn't work with our time. He works in his time. And whenever we allow God to work in his time, it's always a better plan. There was a study where they had kids sitting at a table and they put a marshmallow right in front of them. And they said, if you can wait 2 minutes, we're going to give you a second marshmallow. But if you eat the marshmallow in front of you, you don't get a second one. The vast majority of people sitting at that table could not hold out for 2 minutes. They ate the marshmallow right away, even though they know they could have got another one. That's us. We are always grabbing for that marshmallow, even though God says, I got much more to give you if you can just hold on. It's a hard place to be in. I actually got to watch the study because they videotaped the kids. And you can see them fighting, grasping their hands like this, like, no, I'm not going to do it. 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 It's a hard place to be in, but it is God's way. God blesses us, but sometimes he's waiting for us to get ready for that blessing. Moses at age 40 would not be ready to free his people. Moses at age 40 is killing people. Moses at age 80 is ready to do it. So let's keep going. Exodus 4:24 and 26. Moses is now really returning to Egypt. And it says this, at a lodging place on the way, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him. What? What's going on here? About to kill him? He just sent him on his way. Is that in the Bible? It is. I'm sorry, it is. All right, so this is going to get a little bloody. Zipporah, his wife, took a flint knife and cut her son's foreskin and touched Moses' feet with it. Surely you are the bridegroom of blood to me, she said. So the Lord let him alone. At that time, she said, bridegroom of blood, referring to circumcision. So, what just happened? How do we go from you're God's man to I'm going to kill him? What happened? My point number 2, take God seriously. That's what you need to do. You need to take God seriously. So what happened? It seems that Moses didn't circumcise his son as God told him to do. That wasn't an optional thing for the people. That's the one thing, if you read in Genesis anywhere, that was the one thing that set them apart from wherever they landed, wherever they were at, was circumcision. And here we have Moses kind of acting like it was, that was God's suggestion. That wasn't God's commandment. Being careless nearly cost him his destiny, his purpose, and his life. Being careless with God's instructions. So I ask again, why would God kill Moses after that whole entire burning bush thing? We already can kind of see a pattern early with Moses, can't we? In the burning bush, God tells him to go, and 5 times he's saying why he can't go. And now here we are, we're starting up on the trip, and God's like, did you forget to do something with your son? His wife had to go ahead and do it because he couldn't do it. What God is trying to tell Moses is, take my commands seriously. Take my commands seriously. We're not fooling around here. Moses will die if he does not obey God completely. That's how serious this is. How many people are in Egypt right now? How many Hebrews are in Egypt? Well over 1 million. And Moses is still acting as if God is giving suggestions. See, he doesn't have that 9-10-year-old type of faith that I mentioned earlier about Charles Stanley's son. He has his own idea of how things should go. So let me apply that to us. Why are our hopes, dreams, and plans dying? And I want you to look at your obedience. Are you obeying what God told you to do? Are you doing what he told you to do? Are you following what he told you to do? Are you halfway following? Are you getting like a C? If this was a grade? Because here's the important point. If you don't get anything I said today, get this point. Partial obedience is disguised disobedience. Just kind of following God is still being disobedient to God. Corey, if you are working and God tells you, I want you to go pray for a person in room 102, and you're like, I'll do it later. That's being disobedient. I'll do it, God. I'm just going to do it on my time. Right now, I'm busy mopping and I'm listening to my favorite jams, so I can't really pray that right now. But no, we have to obey God when he tells us to. How many times have you seen others? I'm not even going to say point to yourself. How many times have you seen other people really mess up themselves because they didn't do the one thing God told them to do? And they'll even admit it. God told me to do this, and then they didn't do it. And then you're like, well, how'd you get in this situation? I don't know. Yes, you do know. You didn't listen. Moses didn't listen. And God is trying to tell him, you got to listen. This is the part of the story that I think everybody forgets. This part, where Moses had everything going for him. He's ready to go. God's with him. He's even got a staff that turns into a snake. He's ready to go. And God is saying, I'm about to kill you. You're not listening to me.